exam and the percentage of students who exceed state standards in reading. At best, the privatization gold rush has been a mediocre intervention, which has produced profit for education entrepreneurs and destabilization for our communities. This type of mediocrity is only accepted because of the race of the children who are being served. This type of mediocrity would not be accepted in white middle-class communities throughout the United States. But because of who these children are, who God made these children, these types of interventions are accepted. We say no to the status quo. School districts operating as used school salesmen, brokering the responsibility of educating our children to hustlers is the status quo. Forcing backwards education policies down the throats of communities of color, placing our children in harm's way, and having no accountability to the public is the status quo. Sabotaging successful schools and setting it up for closure is the status quo. Now, what would be visionary? What would be revolutionary even? What would be history-making? Is for community wisdom to partner with academic expertise. All right. We have more than passion. We have more than love. We have expertise. We understand the issues that go on in our neighborhood. We understand what our children need. But when we are locked out of the process of school improvement, the process of school improvement is sabotaged within itself. To deny us the right to improve our schools as community institution is a violation of our human rights. To have communities with no neighborhood schools like North Kenwood, Oakland right now is a violation of our human rights. To destabilize schools in our community is a violation of our human rights. This is why several cities have filed Title VI civil rights complaints and more are to come. This is why we want to sit down face to face with Mr. Eric Holder and yes, our beloved president, who we love and we support. Because in this time, we have to have the courage to address racism in the United States. We are not AstroTurf groups. We are not people who are paid by private interests to appear as if we are parents. I have gone to some of the same funerals that Secretary Duncan has gone to when he was in Chicago. We have formed parent patrols when our schools have been destabilized. We are the people directly impacted. We are the people whose lives are turned upside down by the decisions. So the question is, does the U.S. Department of Education and does school districts throughout this country have the courage to accept what they see in the mirror? Because we are America's mirror. Do you have the courage to face what you see? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Now we're going to hear from various communities. This is a block of time that we have worked out where we're going to hear from Chicago. Chicago, feel free to begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Akilah Griffin. I'm a youth leader with the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization on the south side of Chicago, Illinois. And I'm also a junior at Dunbar Vocational Career Academy and a former Dyer High School student. I'll start with the quote by Robert Ingersoll. Give to every human being every right that you would claim for yourself. Wouldn't you want the best education? We hear elected officials say, education is the civil rights issue of our day. We agree, but flaws in the system prevent this from being successful. In the civil rights movement, people like me were directly impacted. Not corporate workers or bankers, but poor working class people. Top-down decision-making ignores the voices of people directly impacted. That is why we are here today. We're shutting down neighborhood institutions and giving education to private operators instead of sustainable school transformation is acceptable in communities like ours. We hope to bring clarity to this issue today. CPS has closed 100 schools and opened 100 charter and 19 contract schools. So to fix the underutilization problem, you make more schools than you already had? Good idea. Racism to me is harming people in any way because of their race. CPS for years has used top-down policies that have done nothing but tear down the school system and set us back. failed policies. This is for the children. We hear this, yet the district continues to pass these failing policies. They destabilize well-rounded schools, putting us in harm's way. For example, in 2008, Beethoven Elementary had 80% of students who met or exceeded state standards. Why is that? Because Beethoven had a dynamic principal, a dedicated local school council, committed teachers, and wraparound supports for every child, a full-day medical clinic, a boys and girls club, and activities ran until 7 p.m. And most importantly, it was a community school. CPS closed Farron High School, a school that was not failing, and consolidated the students into Beethoven. Of course, the resources did not follow the students. In 2011, only 58% of students met or exceeded standards. This is sabotage, and the same story can be repeated and repeated over and over again. Dyke High, my former school, was turned from a middle to a high school in 1999. The same year, King High School was turned into King College Preparatory, receiving $25 million, while Dyke received little money to transform. Dyke's first graduating class had no honors programs, no library. In 2009, Dyke had a nationally recognized restorative justice program. That year, Dyke had the highest increase in graduation and college attendance rates in all of Chicago public schools. That's right. They also had the highest decrease in student arrests. CPS's response? They cut the restorative justice program, took away classes like Life After Diet and AVID that helped these students to reach their success. In 2011, Dyke had no art teacher, though art is required to graduate, and seniors had to take art online. Now my former classmates are walking through the back door of their school like sharecroppers from the 1930s. We submitted a course comparison sheet that compares the courses between Dyke High School, my former school, Lakeview, a neighborhood high school that's a couple blocks away from the mayor's house, and a selective enrollment school, Northside College Prep. Schools like Lakeview have 12 AP classes, while Dyke has 0. They have STEM and AVID and career academies, while Dyke has nothing. They have darkroom photography and jazz, while Dyke students had to take art online. This is not bad teaching. This is not bad students or parenting. This is district low expectations. I love Dyke. The teachers and students were like my extended family. I was forced to leave because I wasn't getting the tools I needed to be college ready. Let me go over this again on reclaiming the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King says to judge not by the color of the skin, but by the content of the character. So my judgment of the DOE is based off how you plan to right the wrongs that you have let happen in the first place.
My name is Reverend Krista Austin. I am a parent leader of COCO from Chicago, Illinois. Also, the parliamentarian of Cook County Democratic Women in Chicago. I'm here to talk about Our Children Are Not Collateral Damage, a call for sustainable school transformation. The Journey for Justice is a national mobilization to demand an end to discriminatory assaults on public education and a new approach to school improvement. We oppose the wholesale closure of public schools. We oppose the destabilizing top-down interventions required by the Federal School Improvement Grants Program. These interventions not only don't improve students' educational outcomes, they destabilize our communities, increase violence, and shut out democratic voices in public education. 2 years ago, Communities for Excellent Public Schools, a campaign waged by 35 community-based organizations in low-income communities of color across this country, developed the Sustainable Success Model. What is the Sustainable Success Model, and what does it require? Number one, undertake a comprehensive needs assessment done in partnership with the parents, educators, students, and community members so that the local solutions are tailored to the local problems. That's right. Implement research-based instructional and educational reform. Address essential social, emotional, and physical needs of students and recognize parents, students, and community leaders as key to sustainable student success. The Journey for Justice is calling on Congress and the Department of Education to implement the Sustainable Success Model as the fifth option under SIG. We believe it offers more comprehensive and lasting improvement.
My name is Rico Guts, an education professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and a parent of a CPS grad. I've taught math in CPS neighborhood schools and have studied and published research on CPS for 20 years. Since 2001, all but 2 of the 105 school actions have been in schools overwhelmingly serving low-income Black and Latino communities. The chance of that happening randomly, less than winning the lottery. And while 42% of CPS students are Black, 88% of the students affected by school actions are, more than double. School actions were to improve education, not in Chicago. A 2009 study documented that only 6% of displaced students transferred to high-performing schools, while 80% went to underperforming ones. By high school, most were doing about as well as if they had never moved. Likewise, probation was to help poor-performing schools, but the number of probation schools soared from roughly 197 to about 250 today. This is a success? The policy failed partly because it stripped schools of local school councils, squelching local initiative and family input. You know from Tony Brike's work on the 5 essential supports that a successful school needs family and community, and without all ingredients, you can't bake a cake. Racial impact, 2/3 of today's probation schools are over 90% Black. If you believe students need teachers who look like them and can be role models, then the impact of school actions on Black communities is severe. From 2000 to 2010, the percent of Black CPS teachers dropped from 41 to 30%. Many veteran Black teachers knew the community and students' families and had taught them. They were replaced by younger, whiter, less experienced, less credentialed teachers who don't stay long. These relationships and the wisdom of practice impact students' lives. After CPS made Carver in Riverdale a selective enrollment school, most Riverdale students went to Fenger, their new neighborhood school, 5 miles and 2 bus rides away in Roseland across turf lines. When CPS turned around Fenger in summer '09 and rehired only 10 teachers, they exacerbated a situation of deeply stressed youth and adults who didn't know them. 3 weeks into the year, after almost daily fights, Darian Albert was tragically killed in a brawl between Roseland and Riverdale students. Gone were seasoned Black teachers who might have been able to ease the tension.
That's right.
As Secretary Duncan knows well, spike violence resulted across Chicago when schools received students from closed schools in other neighborhoods. These data and much more make clear the severe racially disparate impact of Chicago school policies on Black communities, a major civil rights violation.
Good afternoon. My name is Gavin, a former Price Elementary student. As an African-American young male, I am compelled to voice my concerns about the top-down policies of CPS that harm myself and other children in the North Kenwood community. Our civil rights have been denied. I have been denied the right of a quality education and abused by the system. Price was not given the proper resources and funding for students that attended Price. Programs were cut such as art and music. My teacher was given a pink slip because of not enough funds to keep him. Mr. Triplett was let go and my 5th grade class had to merge with the 4th grade class. This destabilized my class and the 4th grade class. This was very upsetting to me and my classmates. My mother, Reverend Krista Austin, came to the school to voice her concerns about my 5th grade class. The assistant principal, Mrs. McCarthy, had to become our 5th grade teacher. This caused the administration to suffer loss, showing once again the disinvestment in me and my classmates. In addition, we didn't have a full-time nurse or a social worker on staff to fit the needs of our student body. Price was lost after programs such as jazz band and STEM science program. As African-American poet Langston Hughes said, I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes.
Right.
I laugh, eat well, and grow strong.
Right.
Tomorrow I will be at the table when company comes.
Go ahead,
Nobody dare tells me to eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am, then be ashamed. I too am America.
I don't think they can take all this.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Young. I'm president of Action Now of Chicago, Illinois. As the city of Chicago Public School is warning of a $1 billion deficit, and the governor, Pat Quinn, said the state might soon have to cut state school funds by $400 million. Noble Network Charter Schools and others like it has collected over $390,000 in disciplinary fines from low-income families, largely people of color. 473 students have transferred because of discipline fines per research conducted by Voices of Youth in Chicago Education, and PURE, Parents United for Responsible Education. Noble Network is expected to receive $69.9 million, while Chicago Public Schools are expected to lose millions of funds in dollars for education. A petition put together by We the People states students who transferred because of school closing could initially lose up to 6 months in academic achievement. Many charter schools are expanding at a faster rate than can be sustained financially or academically. As a result, some charters has not been able to sustain the academic progress or the operating stability they experienced in the past. Likewise, the closure of public schools has caused a shock that extends beyond the classroom and our community. The social and economic costs outweigh any savings in the past or to be gained. These costs include disruption to student learning, increased violence, death, displacement of teachers, reduction in salary, and the cost of starting up new schools and disposing of public excess, which could and should be spent in our classroom. Public schools should be public. Public schools should be public.
Public schools should be public.
We want a sustainable school transformation and a moratorium on school closing, ending of charter/turnaround. Quit turning around our community, quit turning around our children. Include us in as parents. These are our children. They are our precious cargo. Either cut us in or cut it out. Last but not least, more direct federal funding supporting our schools and fewer cuts.
Thank you. Thank you, Chicago, what did they do? Ms. Moore from Detroit says they went over. Way over. She called them out on it. Now, if the guy upstairs weren't going to give me grief for not giving you the time, I would have stood in your heart. But you got the home field advantage, Chicago. But we do want New Orleans and Philadelphia folks. Feel free to take this table to keep to the time. Ms. Cathy's got the signs there. Mr. Velazquez, would you mind switching seats with Ms. Cathy so that she can be better seen by our speakers? And we will turn it over to New Orleans again. Folks, please do introduce yourselves. Thank you. We have a whole section of the Department of Education folks, and they're looking forward to engaging with you as well. And the Secretary enjoyed being down here and did have to get back to other appointments.
Real quick, if I understand you correctly, just so people know, it was agreed that the Secretary would only be here for 30 minutes, and so that was arranged in the beginning. So make sure people know this.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Let's hear from the folks.
That don't mean that's cool. That just means that's.
Let's hear from the folks from New Orleans. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Terrell Means, and I'm a senior at Walter Alcorn High School in New Orleans, Louisiana. I try hard to focus on college, but because of the separate and unequal treatment at my school, I can't. As a senior and honors student, this should be the happiest and most exciting time of my life. But the current school system has treated me and my fellow classmates like we were undeserving of an education. And less than the other charter school students in the charter part of the building that took over our school 2 years ago. Adding to the fact that we're being phased out, the Recovery School District has fired our principal and the majority of our teachers during the middle of the school year. New Orleans College Prep Charter School did not accept the students that were currently attending the school. And then it began with a new class of incoming ninth graders. All that remained at the original Cohen students were juniors and seniors. There are many problems created by the Recovery School District in New Orleans, such as lack of resources, books, technology, counselor service, and qualified teachers. Classes we need to graduate, and safe environments. Our part of the building is falling apart, but the part the charter uses is all fixed up. The original students that the charter did not accept have been forced to eat on one side of the cafeteria that isn't repaired. But the charter side of the school is nicely painted and it is repaired. Also, while we fight for our historically black high schools and resources, while our white counterparts get to keep their schools and don't even have to ask for resources, this fight for equality, for quality education will continue, and we should not have to fight like our great-grandparents, grandparents, and parents had to do in the 1960s for the same resources that other students in New Orleans are not receiving. We are the children of the future, and we will not stop until we have equal access to a brighter future like our white counterparts.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Harper Royal. I'm a public school parent in New Orleans and co-founder of Parents Across America, and I'm here from New Orleans with the C6 organization representing for New Orleans. The assault on New Orleans public schools began in 2005 with the change in how our state defines a failing school. With this change in law, schools that were improving and making their growth targets at the time Katrina hit New Orleans on August 29, 2005, were now redefined as failing schools. That simple change in law removed 107 of our 128 public schools from the jurisdiction of our local duly elected school board and placed them into the Recovery School District under the direction of the Louisiana Department of Education. The majority of our schools swept into the Recovery School District have been chartered, while others closed and many others never reopened. These changes also caused the elimination of our neighborhood schools, and now parents must apply to several schools if they want to be certain of having a school for their child to go to. You see, in New Orleans, they say we have choice. It's not choice, it's a chance. You put your child into a lottery, and you have a chance of getting into school, and you don't even have a neighborhood school to fall back on. The disparate impact created is that of our 42,000 students, 80% of them attend charter schools. Now, some might have you believe that parents are making choices. You know, we're increasing charter schools because that's what people want. But when you take away my neighborhood school, what else? What choice do I have? That's not a choice. African American students are more likely than their white counterparts to experience schools that are at risk of being closed down, phased out, turned around, or co-located. The schools African American students attend have less experienced teachers, fewer textbooks, counselors, and access to AP courses, gifted programs, and extracurricular activities than their white public school students in New Orleans. African Americans make up 90% of the population of schools that have been closed down and turned over to charter schools, while less than 1% of white students in New Orleans experience school closures or phase-outs or co-locations. Public school parents are guaranteed seats only in Recovery School District schools. You might say that you got a guarantee, but 100% of the Recovery School District direct run schools are D or F. 79% of the Recovery School District charter schools are rated as D or F. To guarantee me a seat in a failing school system is not choice. It's racist is what it is. It's not choice. White children don't have to go through this. They don't have to go through this. African American students experience a constant turnover. We open up a charter to make it better, then we shut it down because it's failing. Again, the white kids get into the charters that have selective enrollments, and they're never at risk of being shut down. Data shows that the lowest performing schools in New Orleans have upwards of 95% African American enrollment, yet over 95% of the white students who attend public schools in New Orleans attend a handful of high-performing schools in New Orleans. This disparity leaves African American students with a substandard education when compared to the educational opportunities provided for their white counterparts. And I just want to, if you could fast forward to slide number 13, you can just go through those, because just go back. I just want to tell you, one more back, go back.
Oh, shit.
This one school, Lusher Charter School, this school here, before Katrina, was a 98% African-American school.
Right.
98%. That school, a magnet school, decided it wanted to become a charter school in the days after Katrina, when they were handing out charter schools like candy. Lusher Charter School received the charter, and they wanted to expand into another building. They expanded into this building. When we repopulated New Orleans, the children at Forsyth High School were not able to go back to that school.
That's right.
And my child attends the school. He went to the Lusher Charter School, Lusher School before, but when they moved into this building, where 98% of the enrollment was black, today, only 32% of the enrollment is black at that school. Now, is this how we're going to talk about turning around schools? We take out the children who were there before, and we put in new children? Sure, Forsyth High School was an F school, and Lusher School is an A school. But you have to test when you are in kindergarten to get into Lusher School. You could advance it. You have to test in kindergarten. That's not how we should be turning around schools. We're not talking about buildings, we're talking about children. Living and breathing children. And when you talk about turning around the school, no, you need to be talking about transforming the academic performance of our children who are struggling. Schools, that sounds innocuous. You know, it's depersonalized. Let's start talking about children improving and not school improving. So 7 years after Katrina, was it worth it? I have to say no, it's not worth it. You know, when we have to give up the right to an elected school board, and our white communities throughout the state don't have to give up that right, it's not worth it. When you look at the fact, here we are 7 years later, 100% of the schools swept into the Recovery School District are rated D or F. No matter how their propaganda tries to tell the story about gains, I'm talking about where we are today.
Right.
You took schools that were successful and improving, and you made them worse, and worse yet, you violated my civil rights. Now, what we want to happen, we recommend a moratorium on charter schools.
That's right.
School closures, phase-outs, and co-locations. We got to stop this. We recommend that the United States Department of Education use the Sustainable Schools Transformation Model as one of the turnaround strategies for underperforming schools. And we demand an immediate investigation of our civil rights, our Title VI civil rights complaints. Thank you. I'll give it to the next group.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to give honor to God for being here today. I want to give honor to all the parents, the teachers, the children, the community. My name is Dawn Hawkins, and I traveled from Philadelphia. I'm a parent leader for Action United. I'm also here to fight for my children's schools in Philadelphia. A little bit about Action United. We just want to let you know that we have a fight too. Action United had filed we filed a complaint against the Office of Civil Rights to let them know that you're not going to do that to our children. We mean education and not incarceration. We have Kia here. She's also an Action United member, and she's going to explain to you about our civil rights complaint that we put on the people.
Good afternoon. My name is Kia Henson, and I'm also a parent volunteer with Action United. And last year in 2012, the Philadelphia School District, the Philadelphia School District announced the closure of 8 schools and phase-outs. And we found a Title VI complaint because it disproportionately impacted minority students. There was a disparate impact on African American communities, with the exception of one Latino school. I'm sorry. In December of 2012, the Office of Civil Rights responded to our complaint and said that there was enough information to investigate the school district of Philadelphia based on our allegations of racial and disability discrimination. And just a little bit about my personal story. I have 2 children who have learning disabilities. And so as a parent, when I see that the governor of our state takes money from education and then funnels it into prisons, I just want to let you know that Governor Corbett has worked. My oldest son, who's 16, special ed student, is now in prison. And, you know, the fight isn't over. We're still working to try and get him home. But yes, it's working. That's working. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ted Stones. I am a neighborhood leader, Action United in the city of Philadelphia. Now, you have heard about the complaint we have filed. It is urgent that action is taken on this complaint. They are proposing to now close 37 more schools in our city. All of these schools are in low-income, predominantly African-American communities. We have schools that are closed that cause blight, discontent in the community. The state officials, I'm hearing today, all across the country are undermining all the schools in our community. We need to get some help. The Secretary of Education only had 30 minutes for us. So I would say that, Mr. President, if you would hear this, we need somebody to come and sit with us and explain to us and direct us in how we should save our communities. Putting our schools in the hands of private interests will destroy our educational system. It's as simple as that. So, Mr. President, I call on you on behalf of every community that is being undermined by the states to assist us in keeping our public schools open. If it's a matter of money, then some of your foreign aid should come back to our community. So, it is urgent right now. The legality is in question. Action needs to be taken. So, United States government, we are citizens of America. We are American citizens. We are being undermined. I'm going to keep saying this until somebody hear me. We are being undermined. The states are taking money out of the budgets and using it for other things. We have private individuals running schools. What happens when all the public schools are private? Then where do we go to take action? What do we do to protect ourselves? So, how can you create hardships for students and at the same time say that you are trying to create a better education for them? That's the question. If you have the hardship of moving from this school to that school, your quality teachers taken away, that creates a hardship that will not increase the excellence in education. It's very simple. So we just need to get somebody to pay attention to us. So, Mr. President, we all voted for you. We all love you, but we all need some assistance. So please come and assist us. Thank you very much.
To say, y'all keep up the fight. I want to say to all parents, community members, children, grandmoms, guardians, whatever you are, stick together. It's me on the side, it's me on the side. We all as one. This fight is for us together. We all as one. We stick together. We can do it. We can do it. 1 year more to it, we can do it. I'm fighting for every child for an education, a better education, better communities, better living. We are asking for it. Keep the fight up. God bless y'all.
Yeah, all right.
Cut back, fight back. You say cut back, we say fight back. Cut back, fight back.
Great. Thank you for having us here today. And first thing, this this is just a beautiful day. And I know for us in Oakland, we've been working a long time, and to finally be here in Washington, D.C., testifying here at the Department of Education, it's gratifying. And hopefully this is just the start of us moving forward. So, my name is Mike Hutchinson, and I'm very proud to say I was born and raised in Oakland, California. I was educated in Oakland Public Schools, and after high school graduation, I went on to UC Berkeley. My younger brother also was educated in Oakland, and after high school, attended and graduated from Brown University in the Ivy League. After teaching for 3 years in Oakland, he went on to UC Berkeley for law school and is now a successful lawyer. My mother was a kindergarten teacher in Oakland Public Schools for 40 years. I spent the last 20 years working in public schools and with Oakland's youth. This past year, I became even more active in issues surrounding public education in Oakland, culminating in my run for school board, where I was the endorsed candidate of the Democratic Party, the teachers union, and the students. In Oakland, our public school system is under attack. We have been effectively disenfranchised and subjected to a series of unwanted and unwarranted educational experiments. These changes that have been forced upon us have resulted in budget cuts, school closures, an explosion of new charter schools, and a dismantling of many of our vital public education services. The effects of these changes have been particularly acute in lower income communities of color, resulting in a disparate impact on our students' ability to receive a quality education in Oakland Public Schools. Currently, after suffering a decade's worth of attacks, Oakland's public education system is failing to deliver quality services throughout the district. In 2003, Oakland Unified School District borrowed money from the state. One condition of the loan was that the state superintendent would appoint a state administrator. The state administrator assumed the authority that once had been held by the school board, and citizens of Oakland became effectively disenfranchised. The state administrator was only supposed to oversee financial issues, but quickly began to change the way education is delivered in Oakland. The state administrator changed the curriculum, closed traditional neighborhood schools, and allowed and encouraged an explosion in the number of charter schools in Oakland. During our 8 years in state receivership, where we had no Democratic representation, no say on how our schools were governed, many of our school communities were devastated, and our district was put on its current path. Not only did the residents of Oakland not ask for these changes to our public school system, many of the changes were forced on us without our knowledge or despite overwhelming community opposition. There was no need to take over our school system, close schools, and continue to open charter schools. These actions continue to cause irreparable harm to our students. Oakland now has over 40 charter schools, which is 1/3 of our schools. We have the highest rate of charter schools in the state of California. Almost all of our charter schools are run by private companies based outside of Oakland and were started by application, not by parents, educators, or the community. Charter schools are not required to take all students, are non-union, have not outperformed public schools, receive public facilities for little or no cost, receive taxpayer support, do not pay on our debt to the state, are not subject to public oversight, are exempt from parts of the Ed Code, and in Oakland have only been started in low-income communities of color. Even if Oakland's school board rejects a charter school application, the county or the state can overturn Oakland's decision and grant the charter. We no longer have the ability to control or run our public education system. At the end of the 2011-2012 school year, Oakland again experienced the trauma of school closures when 5 elementary schools were closed, displacing over 1,000 students and nearly 200 teachers and support staff. The schools, which were all 50 to 100 years old, were closed despite huge community opposition. The closures were unnecessary and unjustified. The closures all occurred in schools where almost 100% of the students are of color and qualified for free lunches. These closures all happened in neighborhoods already greatly affected by school closures and charter schools. Now, large areas of our city have no access to public neighborhood schools. And in Oakland, the 94608 zip code has no public elementary school at all. What? The district has given a variety of reasons for why the school closures were needed, but none of the reasons hold up when examined, and none of the answers explain why these particular schools should be closed as opposed to others. We were told the district had a structural deficit of $30 million and that needed to close schools to balance the budget. Other options for changing the budget priorities, like limiting the use of outside consultants or reducing the central administration or a combination of fixes, were never looked at. The district said the closures would save roughly $2 million, which is about 1/2 of 1% of our operating budget, and could have been paid by our reserves. The cost of closing the schools greatly outweighed any savings. The district estimated losing at least 20% of the students from closed schools, and it looks like the loss was far greater. The district spent nearly $1 million building portables to accommodate the moving students. And most of the closed schools were QUIA schools, which meant they brought in extra money for our district. We were told that the schools to be closed were under-enrolled, but our district controls enrollment through the central office. So the schools have no control over the enrollment. The closures were not based on test scores or performance, and we have never been given the overriding issues that went into the decisions to close the schools.
Sound familiar?
We were told our district had too many schools and too many empty classrooms. Again, this claim was proven false. Oakland is not a shrinking city. We have as many school-aged children as ever. We have a higher number of schools because we had a strong community-led small school movement, which meant we broke up our bigger schools into small ones. If we reconstituted those schools, our numbers would be in line with most other cities in our state. At the same time Oakland closed schools, we opened a brand new facility and broke ground on 2 new facilities. But of course, those schools were in different neighborhoods. Each of the 5 closed schools have been the valued anchor of their neighborhood. They had educated generations of students, hosted community gatherings and meetings, and been their neighborhood's emergency shelter. What was once a source of neighborhood pride and identity has been taken away. Of the 5 closed schools, 2 are now being used by charter schools, again disproving the notion we didn't need the schools. 1 school is being used by a public middle school, 1 is being used for administrative offices, and the 5th one is being leased to our neighboring city, which happens to be the city where our current superintendent used to work.
Oh, no.
And now for some firsthand testimony, I want to introduce Hui Velazquez, who was one of our parent leaders from one of the closed schools from last year.
I want to take a quick second to thank Journey for Justice, Mr. Brown, our U.S. Department of Education for being here and allowing us to tell you the truth today. My name is Hui Velazquez. I'm from Oakland, California, a resident of the same neighborhood for 20 years. I am a proud parent of 3 children, my oldest Teolia, my son Zachiel sitting next to me today, and my youngest Navia. Excuse me. All of them affected by school closures, charters, and a lack of resources in our education system. I'm here with heavy heart because the story I'm about to share with you does not belong to me. It belongs to the tens of thousands of children and families across Oakland. I know today, as I look around and speak with the leaders from Oakland to Los Angeles, from California to New York, I know what's happening to Oakland is also happening to all of us.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Across this nation.
Yes, yes.
This is decimating our communities,
Yes.
and it can no longer continue to happen.
That's right. All right. Yeah. Yeah, we're cool.
Today a national movement begins. And today, for all children in this country, we advocate for them. A moratorium on school closures. Today, we will not be able to resolve the real issues in education. We are here to bring this complex and complicated issue to you to change the conversation, to change the attitude towards public education. What can I say to help you not just hear what I'm saying about the impact, but to actually listen and entertain the possibility that the policies and practices that the U.S. Department of Education is implementing and supporting is exacerbating the problem.
That's right.
In Oakland and to public education once again across this nation.
That's right.
A system that is in the tipping point and desperately needs our full attention. If we truly want to achieve the dream of democracy, we must stand together collectively, not only to provide the best education for our own children, but for all children. Today we invite you to visit Oakland and all the cities here today across our nation to get the full story and facts. Let the parents and the community walk you through the reality of state takeovers, leaving Oakland with almost $70 million in debt from state fines while they were in control of our city, leaving children and residents in Oakland holding the bag. A state receivership destabilizing our school district, allowing for charters to move in and denying children from those communities access. Closing schools that they say will save money, while the entire time opening up charter schools and saying we have too many schools in our district. The closing of my children's school and replacing it with administrative offices, leaving the entire zip code, like Mr. Hutchinson said, with no public school. This left my partnership and my relationship severed with the community that my children and I have been working for almost a decade. Not allowing my youngest to benefit from the amazing experience that my older children experienced at Lakeview. This is not progress, this is destruction of public education.
That's right.
Just days ago, our Oakland Unified School Board voted the intent to revoke a charter school status because of its founder, Ben Chavis, and his wife for funneling $3.8 million into their own company pockets. This was a charter school that the state considered one of the top performing schools. We have lost local control, and even the board, like Mr. Hutchinson said.
Mr. Velazquez, we need to wrap up to move.
Sorry, excuse me. I just have about 30 more seconds, I apologize. We have lost local control, and even the board votes to close a charter after stealing money from the education fund and from the backs of children. The county can overturn, the state can overturn, and we've seen this practice over and over again in Oakland. The U.S. Department of Education cannot continue to allow this to happen. Our local democratic rights have been taken away, and states need to be mandated to reform charter law, or in my opinion, abandon the notion that charters are going to be the magic pill to solve our public education problem. The true reforms will come from keeping communities together and putting the energy, funding, and attention that it needs. Now that we see the future of the race to the top and the charter school movement, we are splitting communities, denying access to children, subjecting families to lotteries, making them feel that they are lucky to get an education. Right. And now we are allowing profit to be the model of moving public education forward. We cannot wait for studies to tell us what we already know. Public education affects every part of every community across our nation. Schools are more segregated now in Oakland than any time before. According to U.S. Department of Education, if schools
Mr. Velazquez, please.
I promise, just 30
Mrs.
more
Moore
seconds.
is waiting to go here in Detroit.
Please.
Or do you want to take more time from Ms. Moore?
I do not, but can I just please, just 30 more seconds?
That was a very long 30 seconds.
Sorry.
A lot of these issues I know we will cover when we get to the section.
Let me just
where
skip
we'll
to my
talk
last
about
paragraph. It
moratorium.
literally is 15 seconds.
15 seconds, please.
Education is the only sword that can penetrate and pierce through the heart of poverty.
Right.
The only strike of liberty that can eliminate racism and injustice for people across this great nation. At no point did I mention civil rights violations because racism does not exist in America. And this story does not exist in America. And I'm not here. And my children are not here. And I do not exist. Everyone does not look like us. This is the next civil rights movement. Today it begins. Join us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Oakland, California.
And Oakland is also asking for a moratorium on school closures and a moratorium on charter schools in our city, especially charter schools that we can't control ourselves. Oakland and the rest of the country must have the right that is guaranteed to us to determine our own future for our own public education system. Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you. Let's go quickly, as we are over time, to Detroit. Ms. Moore, would you please start for us?
Thank you very much. I'm just grateful to be here and to see all you wonderful people that have your hearts in the right place. Education for our children, black and brown students. I am the granddaughter of a slave. My grandpa was Grandpa Rice. He wanted us to be educated so badly that he tricked a white man named Jones in Newport, Tennessee, out of his property. We could not buy property at that time. So my grandfather, looking like he was white, tricked Mr. Jones on Jones Hill out of the property so he could build a school for black children. That's why I have worked over 40 years to help our children get a quality education. I am Helen Moore, an activist of over 40 years. Yes. I am the chairperson, co-chairperson of Keep the Vote, No Takeover. I have in our organization, which I had, Black Parents for Quality Education, and have headed it since 1972, where we closed the elementary school because they did not want our black children, when we moved into that neighborhood, to have the same quality education that white children had. So we closed the school down for 2 weeks. It made history. We closed the school down by blocking the doors and saying nobody gets into our school until we have a say-so about our children's education. I come from a bad background. And my background is this: if our children don't get education, there's no liberation and there's no freedom. And I'll fight to hell to make sure that they get an education, just like the old warrior fight. Now let's talk about racism. Racism is well and alive in this country. We are the descendants of slaves. Yes, ma'am. We are now reversing back to slavery. Backwards never, forward ever. All of you can remember those words. Now let me tell you about Detroit. Worked hard over the years to send my children to college. 4 children, engineer, one works in the DIA, the other one lives here, and she works with a biochemical company. I have another son that is an engineer also. My grandchildren are engineers, lawyers, as I am. And we came from the Detroit public schools because I had choice. You weren't going to put my children in nobody's room that wasn't teaching. I had choice because I said to the system, if you don't teach, get out. And what did I do? One teacher didn't teach. That's right. What I did was close the door and chase him around the room, and he left the city. I don't have time. Time is of the essence. We don't have time to talk about all this that we're talking about. They know what's happening. They know what we're going through. I'm not going to spend my time with that. I came here to demand. I ain't asking for not a damn thing. I'm telling you that I am demanding education for our children. We pay the money. We send our children to the school. They are our schools. They are our children. It is our money. And that's my attitude over all these years. I'm going to tell you about Detroit now. The worst situation you ever seen. Arnie Duncan said we were the worst education system, and he comes along with all these experimentations and makes it even worse. I know what worser is. All the things that are happening to us are by design. By design. By design. They don't want our children to have an education. But we do, and we'll fight to the death to get our education. We started off with over 300 schools. Guess what? We got 93 schools left with all these charters and all these experiments, EAA, and what all these other schools? EAA and charter schools, and they got us divided into fractions. It's schizoid in Detroit. We don't even know what's going on. And the person that is running the schools, the emergency manager, was the vice chairperson of General Motors. He don't know nothing about no education. And then they sent someone from Kansas named Covington for EAA schools, supposed to be a whole new statewide district. The only people that's in that district is us, our children. Supposed to be failing schools. You all know what's happening. We send in the Title VI complaint. Don't play with me. As we say in law school, I attended the Detroit College of Law. Race ipsa loquitur. Any lawyers in the room, stand up and tell them what it means. The thing speaks for itself. We don't have to tell them anything. They know. Let me say this to you. Sojourner Truth. I came to tell the truth. Today is the day that we mark the lines. Step over it, and we will push you back farther than you have pushed us
And they know it, though. They can't say nothing.
But the one that you said you're really trying to see if you have the right to investigate is the one that's keeping our children down. And that's emergency manager law set up to keep our children down. You need to investigate that because it's a crime. Everything that's happened to us, everybody should go to jail. Thank you for We're going to finish up, you all.
Hi, my name is Edge Ashmore. I am a 10th grader at Mumford High School, home of the Mighty Mustangs. I'm here to talk about the problems that I have with the Education Achievement Authority and school closing. My first problem is that we get out of school on August 6th, and we only have 3 weeks of summer. To me, to us students, that's not fair. That gives us less time to do community work and find summer jobs, and we all love money.
All right.
My second problem is the security guards in some of these schools. Some of them are inappropriate. What I mean by that is sometimes in fights, instead of taking the female student out the fight gently, instead they just throw them up against the lockers. And they treat us badly by locking us outside the school because we were late for our first hour of class. So we have to stand outside for an hour to wait to go to our second hour. My third problem is what the EAA wants us to be. They expect us to be like China. Well, say it like that. They think that we are not as intelligent as they are, but we are very, very eager to learn. And as Ms. Moore said, if you close a school in a neighborhood, you kill a community. The more schools you close, more gangs are created. That's only because, excuse me, okay. The reason why more gangs are created is because they eventually drop out of school because of the distance they have to travel to get to school.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, all right, all right.
Hello, I'm Cheyenne Walker. I go to Cody, but I transferred from Central High School, which is now a EAA school. EAA is Education Achievement Authority. Okay, basically, when I came to school in September, I had 7 classes on my schedule and only 3 teachers. So for 4 hours, we were just chilling, listening to music, being in the hallways, and just doing what we do. I feel like those 4 hours, we could have been reading, writing, doing math, learning computers, but instead we were just chilling. Me and my friend, we put together a petition with over 75 signatures, and we put together a rally, and we said, don't call me, because I feel that the school cares more about count day than us getting educated.
They do.
I remember on count day, Mr. McGee found out about our rally. He yelled, that's Stephen McGee, that's the principal. He yelled at us and he got mad. And I said, like, instead of going against us, why don't you stand with us?
You can't. Right, you can't. Not as many.
I'm a senior and I feel this is my most important year. And I should be preparing for college, but instead I spend days stressing over my learning environment. Why do we have to deal with this? Why do I have to deal with this? When I go to Seahome in Birmingham, Michigan, they got backup teachers. They teach go to lunch and another teacher. This generation is not lost. This generation has been neglected. And if we're failing, it's because that you guys have failed us.